get started. Everybody look bright-eyed since you've just eaten a nice big lunch and had that nice chocolate or lemon cake. This is Tom Latham. He is going to be our speaker today with the Posey County Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Like she said, my name is Tom Latham. I'm the Chief Deputy Sheriff at the Sheriff's Office in Posey County. Chief Deputy to Sheriff Greg Oeth. I've been in law enforcement, or in the field of law enforcement, for about 15 years. Within that, I've been able to climb from being a volunteer police officer to a jail officer, then to a patrolman, then to the detective's office, and now I'm at the chief deputy spot. Next stop, hopefully if things work out, sheriff's spot. So we'll see. I brought with me Jonathan Parkhurst, who is older than dirt on teasing. He is actually has many years in the prosecution side of the house. He was a chief trial prosecutor for Stan Levko in Vanderburgh County. We are fortunate enough to have him in Posey County as Travis Clowers, the prosecutor, as his chief deputy. So blessed to have Jonathan with us. I'm here to answer any questions you may have on the investigatory side of identity theft. And I brought Jonathan along so he can kind of answer questions on after my section of work is done, and it goes on from there. So, according to the Federal Trade Commission, identity theft is the fastest growing white-collar crime in the United States. Average yearly increases by 40%. The Privacy Rights Clearinghouse estimates that each year 800,000 people in the United States fall victim to identity theft. So what is it? How do you find it? Identity theft happens when someone accesses essential elements of your identifying information in order to commit theft or fraud, or taking items from you. That could be monetary items, or it could be actual objects. The information includes your name, social security number, date of birth, and obviously sometimes these security questions on the internet are, what is your mother's maiden name? Obviously, they use your personal identification or information. They accumulate fraudulent charges on sometimes your existing accounts, and also with that information, they can create new accounts. So what do? Obviously, they run up existing accounts that you may have. That's when you unfortunately get the bill in the mail and you're looking at some charges from Texas and you've never left Evansville, Indiana. They can create new accounts. I've worked multiple identification or ID thefts pertaining to more of the new accounts. They will get loans in your name, and the credit card fraud kind of goes with creating new accounts, and they also apply for utilities. My wife works for a utility company, and she deals with that quite often. And basically the reason for that is if you move into a house and you have a bad credit with a utility company, they will use someone else's information to maintain the residency there, so the bill keeps coming, but not to them, to someone else. So it's discovered because they deny the credit. You get noticed, or you get a notice in the mail saying that you were denied the credit for whatever reason. Then the snowball begins, or the realization of the snowball begins. The actual snowball has already occurred. You start receiving bills that you're not familiar with, or you stop getting bills in the mail. And I'm always fearful of that because people are, the mail is what it is, and I live in rural Posey County. I live in between Poseyville and Wadesville, and my mailbox is at the end of my driveway, which is about 2/10 of a mile long. So very easy for someone to drive by my mailbox, open it up, and grab my credit card bill or utility bill or whatever, grab my account information, and now they've got what they need to start their little enterprise. Collections and calls and letters from debt collectors that you begin to discover. So what do you do to minimize the risk of becoming a victim? There's 4 basic steps, and just remembering the word scam as an acronym. S is be stingy about giving out personal information to others unless you have the reason to trust them, regardless of where you are. And I cannot stress this enough. One of the biggest scams that we have going right now is person claims that they are an authoritative figure from Mexico, California, and they will call a person and say, "Grandma," and they'll say, "Jim, is that you? Well, now what have we done? We've just given the suspect's grandson's name. So yeah, Grandma, it's Jim. Yeah, I'm in trouble. I need $2,000 wired to me by Western Union to get me out of jail." It happens every day, every day. As a matter of fact, it happened to my wife's aunt, and she lost about $2,500. So it does happen, and you really need to pay attention to. It's sad the society we live in today. You have to really hang on to each word people speak, especially when you're dealing with phone calls, because you may be giving out information you don't even realizing that you're doing it. So check your financial information regularly, and look what should be there and shouldn't be there. And there are those TransUnion, Equifax, and I can't remember the other one. Experian. That you can check. So do that periodically throughout, and I suggest even quarterly do it. They suggest annually, but I suggest quarterly. And I'll tell you why. I worked a case before where a gentleman had his identity stolen. I was a volunteer fireman, and I was actually in the fire department with him. And about 5 years prior to him calling me this past time, he was a victim of identity theft. They racked up about $5,000 in credit card debt. They will sell your information too. So after that situation was resolved, everything settled, the dust settled. About 3 or 4 years later, he calls me and says they've done it again. They've racked up about $7,000 on a Cabela's credit card. Cabela's actually caught it, and they were able to contact him once they realized what was going on. And some of the articles had been sent to Georgia. It was a larger city in Georgia, and I can tell you that Posey County has a population of about 27,000, and we have 8 road deputies, 2 detectives, a chief deputy, and the sheriff, and that's what our department consists of. We have about 800 road miles in our county, but we only have about 13 officers now, and that's just 9, I'm sorry, we just hired 1 person. So that's 9 people to patrol 800 road miles, and that puts 2 deputies out at one time. So this larger city in Georgia doesn't really care what's going on in Posey County, Indiana, I can tell you. And unfortunately, I met that. But what information I was able to obtain from the Georgia authorities was the housing unit that we were able to track all of this stuff being sent to was just that. It was a housing unit, and almost on a weekly basis, residents were changing. So we were never able to find what we needed to secure this case. Through the battle of about 2.5 years, he was finally able to get the money because, let me back up, they were actually paying on this credit card for a while too. They would pay $100 here, they'd pay $50 here. So they were able to, it was finally when they stopped paying that Cabela's went, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. We're showing an address in Wadesville, and these items are being sent to Georgia. Something isn't right," and that's when they made the contact, once they stopped paying the bills. They didn't care as long as the money was coming in. They never questioned it. So it was about 2.5 years that he was finally able to settle this and get the situation resolved. Now, unfortunately, I think that it'll probably only be maybe a couple more years until he's hit again, because his identification is out floating around. So what should you do? Ask periodically for a copy of your credit report. It should list all the bank and financial accounts under your name, and should provide other indications of whether someone has wrongfully opened or used an account in your name. And maintain careful records of your banking and financial accounts. I went to an internet crime class, and it was taught by a Pennsylvania state trooper. And he asked me, and I'm going to ask the same questions, except I'm not going to be as rude as he was. How many people have checks? How many people write checks in here? Okay, I still do too. What he told me, now this is him speaking, not me. You guys are morons. I didn't say that, he did, okay? I just want to reiterate it. Because when you write that check, you're sending your routing number and your account number, and Some of the cases in the past that I've worked, someone was going through Posey County and they were hitting mailboxes and pulling AT&T bills out, and the checks were written out of there. Now I was able to get, and the company was, AT&T was, this specific billing company was out of Chicago. Once again, we're talking about Chicago. Do they really care what happened in Posey County? No, they don't. So I was able to get, through cooperation of the financial institution, some video, still photography from the ATM machine where the person had actually accessed the account through, and I'm assuming at this point that this suspect had connections or did work in the mailroom at AT&T and was ripping envelopes, stealing all that information. So a couple things, just to kind of recap. If you're not getting your bills, be aware that something else may be going on. And I had this situation with myself a couple weeks ago. I didn't get we have an alarm on our house. I didn't get my alarm, so I'm calling the alarm company going, "Where's my bill?" "Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot to send it." Thank God, because someone didn't steal my stuff. Concerns for the elderly. A lot of times we find that the elderly are easy targets because most of the time elderly are a little more giving. They have good hearts. They want things to be in order, and they have a hard time believing that there are bad people that do bad things, and it's never going to happen to me. So if they have credit cards and they're not using them regularly, they're not paying attention to those transactions with the mail. That's when those types of things start building. They're unfamiliar with computers and online activity. So it comes down to a point of being able to educate yourself or being educated in understanding how the internet works and how people can steal your information. So there is a virtual, and many in here may know more than I was also in a class where we were told that there's a virtual world and people actually sell. One gentleman had mortgaged his home, truly mortgaged his home, and spun the money through Europe and made it into Euro money, and built a virtual asteroid so people could buy virtual iron ore from this asteroid, and now he's a multimillionaire. In true life, he's really a multimillionaire from doing that. But the problem is, in this virtual world, and we can go on to other criminal activity that takes place, they're actually doing real transactions. And the United States won't allow this transaction to take place, so they transfer their money to Europe. Europe says, yeah, we can make this good, and then they're making it good and then transferring it back to US dollars, or whatever the higher denomination is. Federal law, the Identity Theft and Assumption Deterrence Act of 1998, enacted in October, established that a person whose identity was stolen is a true victim. I think there were some problems there where people were being told, we really don't have anything that kind of oversees this, so sorry about your luck, figure it out yourself, which was very unfortunate. Thousands of dollars being lost. Provides penalties up to 15 years imprisonment. I've never seen it, and unless we're talking probably of hundreds of thousands of dollars, we probably won't see that, 15 years in prison. The maximum fine is $250,000. Now, everyone in here seems to be pretty educated, and if someone's stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're probably blowing it on this and this, do you really think they have $250,000 to pay back the fine? Probably not. It's easier to steal than go out and get a job. Victims are usually scared, they're confused. Their ability to trust anyone has been severely tested, for obvious reasons. Many of the victims report that financial, emotional, and criminal assault on their good names has either permanently impacted their lives or has continued for years. And I can tell you the gentleman from Waitsville that I was speaking of earlier, he's having a hard time even building his credit back up, and it was nothing of his actions that caused it. So there's a ripple effect that continues for quite some time. The responsibility of a victim is to call the 3 credit reporting agencies, and like I said, I suggest doing that on a quarterly basis. It does cost money, but just like any investment, for your return later on, you've got to make a small one. So notify the affected credit card companies and banks. The financial institutions that I've been able to work with are around in this area are pretty easy to work with, to be honest with you. Facebook is horrible. They will, even with a subpoena, they will not release us any information. It has to be worded in their way, and so they're horrible to work with as far as identification, information, obtaining information. Financial institutions around here have been tremendous in getting us what we need, or at least getting us on the right track of what we need by honoring the subpoenas. It comes a point where, in a small agency like us, the victim is unfortunately forced to do a lot of legwork because of us only having one criminal investigator and one drug investigator. We all know that prescription drugs are way worse than methamphetamine ever thought about being, but we're still battling the meth problem. So that kind of forces a small agency like us to be dealt with, or having the victim to do a lot of this legwork, unfortunately. Financial institutions, like I said, will help the victims and lead them to get what they need as well. What can you do today? Place passwords on your credit card, bank, and phone accounts. And don't use obvious. Don't use your initials. Don't use your date of birth. Use something that is very lengthy, and if it allows, use small case, lowercase, exclamation marks, periods, arrows, whatever it is. And don't use the same. I know this is very difficult because I catch myself doing it. Don't use the same one for every account. And that's easy to do because you're in a hurry. Well, a lot of times I'm in a hurry. I want to transfer this, I want to do this, and before I realize I'm using the same password for my email, my bank account, and it is easier to remember, but we're kind of defeating the purpose by doing that. Secure your personal information in your home, and do it in more than one place. Some of the burglaries that I've worked in the past, folks put all their passports, social security cards, birth certificates, all those types of items in small safes, and I can tell you that probably 9 times out of 10 you can find them in their closet. And burglars know this, and that's the first place they go. And what's the first thing they take? The safe. So now where's all your personal information? It's gone. Usually found in a creek maybe 3 or 4 days later, if we're lucky. We may never find it. Usually we find pieces of the safe laying from point A to point B. So have those things scattered throughout your home in different locations, and that can help you later when you're trying to file paperwork with the financial institutions. Shred their personal documents, even those credit card applications that you get in the mail. I don't know about you guys, but I get them like every day. If they would invest the money somewhere else, they may not be paying higher interest rate. I don't know. That's just
there's an opt-out on the end of those credit card offers. Look at the last page at the bottom, there's an opt-out. I don't get them anymore.
Really, it worked, huh? Okay. Wow. Because usually if I just shred them up and tear, then I start coming in my kid's name, so I don't know how they get that, but they do. And ask information, security procedures in your workplace. Be alert. Once again, when your mail or your bills don't arrive, and then you get these denials for credit on credit applications that you didn't apply for, that's when you definitely need to, if you're not doing those quarterly contacts with the credit reports, that's when you need to do that right away. Always inspect your credit report and check your bank statements. When my wife and I first got married and we would get those bank statements, I'd just throw them in a file. And at the end of the year, I'd wrap them in a rubber band, throw them in a box, and they went in the attic. Now I look at every one of them, especially because it's so convenient to use your debit card or your credit card online. I'm fearful that information has been jeopardized. PayPal has faced a couple of issues where These criminals have nothing better to do than sit back and think about how they can manipulate not only the system, but manipulate you, and in believing that you're actually on their site, when in reality you're not. And we'll talk about the skimming devices later on. But being able to mirror those true sites to make you believe that you're actually making a transaction through a legitimate site is becoming more likely than not. So, be careful. Some of those websites may be, and I'll just throw out an example, www.sears.com. And if you look, sometimes you'll see that there's a www.sears.com, and then you'll look below and there's www.sears.com/. Well, the first one you see is the bigger one, so you click on it. It may not be the legitimate site. I'm not saying anything about Sears. I'm just using it as an example. So, how can anyone get your information? That's the good old-fashioned way of doing it. Pickpocketing. Dumpster diving, because we're not shredding those documents. We're just maybe tearing them once in half, or just tossing them in the trash because you're busy, you're in a hurry, and you need to get somewhere. Skimming. These are things that you can buy through eBay. And when you go to these restaurants and you put your debit card in the little book, you give it to them, they will legitimately go back and scan your card, and then they'll take out one of these skimming devices from their pocket. They'll scan your card, they'll put the skimming device back in their pocket. After a period of time, they'll go back and they'll download that information, and we'll start selling it to people. These same things are located at gas stations. Gas stations, when you go to the pump, because it's convenient, you slip your card in, you pull it straight back or straight out. And this is, my wife makes fun of me because I do this, but every time I go to a gas pump, I go up and I tug on that card reader, because if it pops out, then I know we have a problem. But I do that. My wife says I'm going to end up going to jail because someone's going to call on me thinking I'm trying to tear up the machine. But it's something to be aware of. So do those types of things. It's okay to do that. Phishing is an attempt to acquire sensitive information such as username, passwords, credit cards, details, and sometimes indirectly money by masquerading as a trustworthy entity in electronic communication. Once again, I'm kind of talking about mirroring the PayPal account. And here's an example as to what I'm talking about. So as you can see, a couple lines down, it says to validate your online bank account, click on the following link. Well, what does that link do? Takes you somewhere else where you don't want to be, because then you're going to start getting that information. Looks legitimate, but it's not. Here's another example. Click here to update your information. All these kind of things that now that we're talking about it, you can kind of look at it and go, well, yeah, that's kind of common. I mean, I kind of get it now, but we're also sitting in an ID theft class, so it's not every time, and that's the thing that it's kind of really inconvenient, because it's not going to happen every time you get on the internet, but the chance is there, and it's growing more and more each day. Emails that appear to be from the IRS requesting to confirm your information. If you haven't signed up for something, or if you haven't requested something, and you get it in the mail saying, here is what you requested, or here is what you signed up for, call us. And we have a good I can say we, as the Sheriff's Office in Posey County, have a good working relationship with the U.S. Postal Inspector, the FBI, the DEA. We have a great working relationship. As a matter of fact, our drug investigator he's on the FBI task force. So we have a lot of resources that we are able to utilize because of his placement with the FBI. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to send a case over to the Secret Service. So we have a good working relationship, and I'm sure that if we do, Vanderburgh County and Evansville PD also do, because they have a lot more people than we do. So they're able to utilize themselves in a much broader spectrum than we are. Does anybody carry their Social Security in their phone? Fantastic. Now everybody's shaking their head, so if there is one person in here that does, they're not going to raise their hand.
But it's on your driver's license.
Huh?
It's on your driver's license, isn't it?
No, not anymore. No. Years ago they did.
It's on your Medicare card.
It is on the Medicare card?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, your Medicare number is your social security number.
Oh, wow.
With a letter.
Unless you're drawn off
Yeah,
as that.
that's
Yeah,
a
but then
problem.
it's your spouse, so.
Wow, that's a problem. So, how to prevent identity theft, protect your sensitive information. Don't carry your social security card with you. Memorize your PINs and passwords. Beware of promotions that request sensitive information. I don't even do the promotion thing. Well, we just had a child 4 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We don't, the only promotion thing I did was Huggies, Huggies.com, because you can add up these points and get free stuff with diapers. Diapers have really gone up in price recently. So you question how your Social Security and other sensitive data will be used if requested by legitimate sources. Don't be afraid to ask. If someone's calling and asking this information, hang up on them. If you're not comfortable, you don't have to give them anything. Hang up on them. If they need it, they'll call you back. And then, before they call you back, type up. This is a great resource. If you have a computer and you have internet access, you'd be surprised if you type in phone numbers, what can pop up. Some people have called in complaints about they think that they were attacked in a fraudulent manner. I'll type in the phone number and it'll pop up and it'll say, if you see this number, please do not give them any information. And I mean, it's just comment after comment. Yeah, I received this, and they're in North Carolina, someone in California, New York, and everybody's talking about this one specific phone number. So do that. And like I said, if they need information, they'll call back. But just there's different things that you can do to eliminate the potential of giving out your information unknowingly. So protect your sensitive information, shredding your information. Don't give any credit card numbers, social security numbers. I'm kind of the old-fashioned person where I don't like using the internet to buy things. So we're blessed to have a swimming pool, but I always go through this company called In the Swim. And although I've bought things from them multiple times, they always ask for that little 3-digit number on the back of your credit card, and I hate giving that thing out. I feel dirty after I do that. I don't know, it's just scary. So we're back to writing checks and paying bills and then putting the mailbox up. What have we done when we do that? When we throw that flag up, yeah, hey, guess what? There's probably bills in here, so if you want to come by and grab some stuff, driving by the post office and dropping them in the mailbox is probably the most safe thing to do. It's not very convenient, but it is safer. Have you noticed fewer and fewer places require check your signature on your credit card? Yeah. That's pretty scary if you ask me. I think it should be a photograph of course I'm a police officer, so I'm always trying to think outside the box, but I think a photograph should be required on a credit card before a transaction is done. Once again, not convenient, but unfortunately the criminal world has forced us into a really not so convenient society. And we could go on to airport scans and so on and so forth forever in a day. So modify your credit card and habits. Carry only the cards you use regularly. Sign the back of all the credit cards or write check ID. Don't loan your cards out to anybody. And once you notice that they're missing, or report them to your financial institution. You may not be able to report it to us as stolen because it may be something as simple as being misplaced, but at least report it to your financial institution that, hey, you're missing this card, and if there are any transactions from point A and here on out, then they're not mine. So don't allow the transactions. We're going to a Casting Crowns concert. They're coming to Evansville in October. And my wife calls me at work and says, hey, you won't believe this, Casting Crowns is coming, but the tickets are like $500 a piece for the floor. And I'm going, wow, that's incredible. So I'm willing to pay it though. So I call them and I get on the internet and I type in Casting Crowns, Evansville, Indiana Ford Center, and it pops up. Well, I very rarely go to concerts. The last concert we went to was in 2009 when we went and seen Casting Crowns in Louisville. October 30th, 7 p.m. Ford Center. So I go ahead and make this purchase, and it was
Religious.
it was for $500-something. And after I realized it, before I completed the transaction, I'd already given my card number and I'd already given that little stupid 3-digit number, and I realized this wasn't Ticketmaster. So I'm going, oh, wait a minute, before I make this transaction, so I pulled up another internet browser, and I went to Ticketmaster. Well, these tickets are only $55, and these are front row, on the floor tickets. So something's wrong here. So I'm going, oh, and if I had hair, I would have pulled it out. So I immediately called my credit card company, and I said, look, here's what happened. Here's what I've done. This was my mess up, but I'm telling you now that if there are any transactions from now on, and they said, oh, Mr. Latham, that's fine. We will text you and email you if there are any transactions on your card. And I said, please set that up. So there are some security measures that you can take, and that's what they've done. I very rarely use my credit card, but when I do, I get a text now and telling me, hey, there was a transaction that took place. If this wasn't you, call us immediately. So far, everything's worked out okay.
And sometimes if you go to the Civic Center, they get your tickets for even cheaper there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Buy some for the whole room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take them all.
Yeah. I wish I would have known that.
$45.75.
So if anybody's going, we'll be in the front left side. We have the first 10 rows, or 10 seats in the front row. Once again, modify your credit card and habits. Check for the padlock and check for the HD TPS.
What's the padlock?
Padlock is a little symbol that shows it's like a little security symbol.
Okay.
Opt out of the pre-approved credit card offers. If you want a credit card, these financial institutions are salivating for people to borrow money from them. So I'm sure you can find a legitimate number and call them and go through the process that way. Shred your junk mail. Does anyone in here live in Posey County by chance? You do? Do you have TDS or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you get all of the TDS marketing? It's like
Yes.
every day you get something in the mail. You know, they eliminated, I don't know, 4 jobs in our area, and I'm thinking, you know, if you would stop sending this stuff, you could hire those folks back, and we wouldn't have to wait 4 weeks for someone to come out. It's a telephone company. It's a rural telephone company. We can't get AT&T in my area. I'm sure you can't either in yours. Wish we could, but we can't. It's DirecTV or nothing, or Dish Network. It's very important to not just rip them in half, shred them, and if you could shred them 4 times, I would suggest it. But it's kind of hard to put all those pieces back together. So, does anyone here have a firewall or an antivirus software on your computer that's up to date? Good. Those are important things. Making sure they're up to date and maintaining that is very important. Use wireless encryption. Don't give out any of your net or ID passwords on the internet under any circumstances, and lock your computer when you're away from your desk. Does anybody remember, and I think there was a little splash on the news yesterday about Evansville Police Department when they raided that home because a person had sat outside this residence and connected to the Wi-Fi. And I don't think there was any connection between the two. I'm not 100% sure. But if you have Wi-Fi, get a security passcode on it. I've worked multiple cases where that's exactly what happened. Someone went out and filled an application out in an auto dealer in this area. I can't really say who, but it was an auto dealer in this area. And that auto dealer, one of the people that had worked there, and this has been many years ago, had connections in Georgia. For whatever reason, Georgia becomes a popular state. They took that information. They went to the east side I'm going to think it was Denny's or Bob Evans on Green River Road. They sat outside of Bob Evans and Green River Road and got on newegg.com, which is an electronic business online. And they took their information and entered it into the computer and developed a new email. They first started by building a new email. And then they, because once you develop that information, they'll say, well, I'm going to send it to your email to make sure this is who it says it is. So once they did that, they were able to rack up about $12,000 in products that was immediately sent to Georgia. And once again, we're stuck with what kind of authority does Posey County Sheriff's Office have in Georgia? I can tell you the answer. None. So the cooperation between us and them isn't always the greatest.
Sir,
yes.
one quick question. There was a young man in my neighborhood I found out 2 weeks ago. My neighbor said that this young man was sitting in front of this one house for 2 hours, and he was doing some things that wasn't for sure, and then moved to another area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a very good computer person, but my neighbor called and said that they was able to, because I have laptops was wireless,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know nothing about, but they was able to check to see that I did not have something locked on mine, and I had guessed something open,
Mm-hmm.
which I had no clue what they were even talking about.
Yes, if you. Yeah.
And so naturally this was on a Friday night, and so I called Time Warner because they had my account, and also that I called Computers Plus the next day. And they assured me that even if this person was able to get on, they probably wouldn't be able to get to any of my personal information. And I don't know that much about the computer things, but thank goodness my grandson knew what I was talking about. He came over that weekend and set me up now, and so now I have to remember another password to get on. Okay, yeah, so I didn't even.
Probably what you're describing to me, probably he was using your internet, wireless connection. Hence the reason why he set out there, because if he would have moved too far away, then he
They
would
said
have
that he
been.
would move to different areas.
Yeah.
And a
So
lot
that-
of them around there, theirs was locked, and how they knew that, I'm not sure, because he said, yeah, all theirs is locked, but yours isn't, you have an open guest line.
Right.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know if that's something that we all need to look at more closely.
Yes, and kind of jumping back on that case I was talking about in front of Bob Evans, that's how I was able to track where it went. I was able to, through the email that was produced, I was able to copy the IP address, and without going into much detail, and there may be folks in here that know much more about this than I, but the IP addresses are from this number to this number is owned by AT&T. This number to this number is owned by Verizon, and then so on and so forth. So between A and B, and this IP address fits in with that, I'm able to go, okay, I know AT&T owns this IP address. Now, I have to subpoena AT&T and find out who they are loaning this IP address to. Well, after doing that, I was able to say, okay, it was Bob Evans on Green River Road. I go to Bob Evans and they say, yeah, we have an unsecure open Wi-Fi, so anybody can pull up outside, or when you go into the restaurant, you're able to surf the internet and not have to use any of your 4G or your internet, your seconds or
Data.
data. There you go. Thank you. And so lock your computer and always have password protected on your computer as well. Has anybody checked their credit report in the last 12 months? Once again, it goes back to, good. It goes back to that quarterly thing. Finn, how do you restore your good name? Immediately close the account and request fraud dispute forms. This is a pain. The gentleman that I talked about from Wadesville, he said this was horrific. Like I said, he dealt with this for 2 years before he was able to get it resolved to the best that he could. When you file a police report, I can tell you right now, if there is some type of fraud issue on an account, it's difficult for us to do anything because a lot of times these are overseas folks that are taking money from Russia, Jamaica, and places like that. Canada. So it is very difficult. So basically what you're doing by calling us is verifying that, hey, there was an issue and that's what your bank needs for you to get refunded for your losses. And then contact one of the 3 credit reporting agencies. Report the theft to the Federal Trade Commission. which is basically all you're doing, in my opinion. And if there's anybody that's federal employee, take no offense to this, but I think they're using it just for statistical purposes because not much is going on. Liability is under Fair Credit Billing Act. Your maximum liability under federal law for unauthorized use is $50. If you report a loss or stolen cards before they are used, your liability is $0. And if the card number their loss is only the card number and not the card, your liability is $0. Debit card liability. Liability depends on how quickly you report the loss. It does not matter if it ran through as credit. It doesn't matter if you signed rather than used a PIN number. There are currently no federal liability protections against fraudulent use of your investment or retirement accounts. So check with your bank or brokerage to see what type of liability protection they offer. Keep your sensitive data secure, monitor regularly and for identity theft, and act quickly if you think the identity has been compromised. A lot of people, yes, ma'am.
The Discover identity theft protection and like LifeLock,
Mm-hmm.
do you think those are effective? Or?
I think taking those steps are better than nothing. Nothing's for sure, especially
They check it every 3 months. They check your credit, and they send you something if you've made bought a car.
transactions.
Yeah,
What does that cost? What is?
$10 a month at Discover. Now
Okay.
my work has LifeLock, and I think it's all about the same price.
Okay. So once again, it's $120 seems like a lot of money, but it's $120 compared to $15,000 is really not much. It's a good investment. But yeah, certainly taking some type of measure is better than not doing anything. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Just a comment, we had our credit card, whatever, frozen, and so we forgot about it. And I was applying for a credit card for my husband because he's buying a bunch of paint at Home Depot, and they said, "I'm sorry, your credit's been denied." And I thought, my credit's been denied. We both have excellent, why is it denied? And then I get home, they're gonna send me a letter in 10 days telling me why it was denied. And then I go, oh yeah, that's right, we had it frozen, it's working.
At least you know when it's frozen that it worked. It was a hassle to some degree, but at least you know that it worked.
Also, two more things. That grandma call, I had one of those ones, but the kid called me grandma, and my granddaughter calls me granny.
Those are things to look for. Yes, absolutely.
And then, if you have something wrong with your computer, this happened to me and to my sister. You get this call from this guy, and you think it's legitimate because you are having trouble with your computer. And he's starting to tell you all this stuff, and then finally you're like, no, this is a scam, I'm hanging up.
Right. A lot of times they'll take a shot in the dark.
Yes, he had at least accent.
I've gotten that too, and I don't have a computer that's.
Oh, there you go. That's
And so I hung up, but there's a delay because they're doing random telephone numbers, I guess, and I don't have
Yes.
caller ID, and, but he's called, and I wouldn't have picked it up if it was an unknown anyway, but.
Sure. Yes.
We were talking about checks and then like using your debit card, like to make online purchases or just using that in general. Is there one better than the other, or?
Not
I
using your.
think you'd be at risk both ways.
Yeah, you really are, and it becomes a convenient issue. The best way, in my opinion, for transaction is cash.
Yeah.
But we're becoming a cashless society. Cash is
I know
becoming.
it's just easier just to swipe that card.
It is. It's a whole lot more convenient. And this society that we live in today is go, 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 go. So yeah, cash is the best way.
Please repeat that again about the gas station. I know about inserting my credit card, but then your wife said you're going to go to jail. But what were you doing?
Because
you lost me.
Okay, because whenever the mechanism that you slide the
Yes.
card into, people will come by and they have developed a piece that fits over that. So when the piece fits over that, it looks like the legitimate equipment that would be there. So I always go up and I grab it and tug on it. If it stays, we're good. If not, then I'm making some phone calls to my buddies and we're going to get the situation resolved.
How long would it take, like the gas station, to figure that out? I mean,
If an employee isn't being very observant, they're probably not even going to pay attention. Because what will happen is someone will pull up to the gas pump, they'll legitimately get gas, sometimes not. But all they're doing is, outside the car, and they'll pop this thing on, and then they'll drive away. A week later, they'll come back and pick it up.
Oh, they come back a week
Yeah.
later and pick it up, okay. Okay.
Is that the same thing that they were putting on the bank ATM?
Yes. Exact same thing. Yes.
How should you protect yourself from skimming in a restaurant? Yeah.
That's,
Y'all use credit cards.
you're exactly right.
Y'all disappear.
And what the advice that we were giving and are given in these classes was, don't let them take your credit card.
Ask them to do it at the table.
Yeah, but in their defense, the cash register sometimes, they have to. So, a suggestion, and they may look at you like you have 8 heads, but hey, I want to follow you to watch you do this transaction. I mean, that's always an option.
Well, let's just pay cash. I
Or
guess.
pay cash. Yep. Yes, sir.
We were the victim a few years back of something where we went to it was a craft fair or wine festival or something, and we bought things, and they were scanning our card through a scanner and printing out a receipt there. But all the transactions were being handled through a cell phone. Somebody sitting out in the parking lot picked up all the data off the cell phones and started using their card.
Yeah.
So if you're out where somebody is doing that, now I know a lot of places use the Apple that have the iPhone that has the little cube on it.
Right.
I think their security is better than what happened a few years ago. But that's something that if I don't see this being handled through a landline, I won't let them use my credit.
That's good. That's good. And once again, it comes back to convenience or protection. And it's the best thing to do, in my opinion, and I'm just as guilty as everyone sitting in here probably, is using cash. And I can tell you right now, I have no cash on me. I don't even have any cards on me. My wife has them on. I'm teasing you. Yes, sir.
I've got one other question, and this kind of all fits together. This getting called, phishing phone calls that you get, and you mentioned don't give any information over the phone or ask to call them back. Well, most of the time, if you ask to call them back, they're going to hang up on you.
Right.
But what about this issue of the no-call lists? I have judiciously registered on no-call lists. I get a phone call. I have caller ID. I get a phone number. I keep them on the line enough that I get a name and maybe even an address of a company. I'll report it to the Indiana State Attorney, and they say, we're unable to follow up on it. That tells me that either the state's attorney is powerless or they're not doing anything. What's your opinion of that process?
Well, I think what happens is some of that no-call list pertains to a group of, and I don't know how we could title it, let's just say a group of companies or individuals, but yet there's still another group over here that has the right to call you. And so I think what may be going on there is someone is selling off information that maybe you go to a restaurant and there's some fine print there that says this information, your personal information could be used or whatever the case is. I think that's probably what's happening. I don't know. Obviously, the state's attorney general's office is up here, and I'm way down here. So I would continue to call the state attorney general's office. That position is an elected position, and they are held to a standard, and we're the people that put them there. Well, regardless if we did put them there or not, they're in that spot, and they should be held to that standard. If they're making this statement, call them out on it.
But have you had any experience with that or heard any complaints about the reports being made and repeatedly? And I like I said, I've made several of those reports, and I constantly get back the same form letter. Mm-hmm. We were unable to verify the information or inadequate information given. Well, if I got a phone number and a name and an address of the company.
And it's probably not legitimate.
Yeah, and it may not be legitimate. That's the other thing I wanted to hit on about the checks. We've had financial institutions that with legitimate bank accounts and routing numbers, the financial institution is out of Virginia. The company that they used on the check when they made these checks up is out of Nebraska, and they go to Mount Vernon, IGA, and they cash this check, Well, the problem is it takes quite some time for all that to catch up with one another. So, once again, we're back to the check thing and using cash. I mean, really, as horrible as that sounds, it comes to convenience, and it comes to, I guess if you want to call it inconvenience about getting cash, I don't know.
I gotta figure all
Just
this
one other
out.
comment.
Okay.
We had an experience, our daughter was living in Italy, and she had an American, she had one of my American Express cards issued to her, credit card and her bank card. Got stolen in Italy. We got all the transactions stopped, everything was taken care of. The best company that we had to work with, one that worked with us just stellar, and I've done it in the past in other circumstances, is American Express. Yes, it costs money for your card, but they have never asked us a question when we've been challenged on that. We then subsequently replaced her card. That card got stolen in the mail.
Wow.
I sent a new set of cards over by FedEx. That got to her. And again, American Express was the company that in every instance was the most supportive. No questions asked. Yes, it costs money for the card, but they really do a good job.
That's good. That's good to hear that there are, that they're able to work with the public as well.
The banks, big name banks, the local banks, both were difficult to deal with.
Sometimes you're just a number.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your opinion on identity theft and like insurance?
As far as someone using,
Is it worth it?
oh, to get insurance for, okay. Once again, you're stuck with that investment. Is to say I wouldn't do it, I can't stand here and say that, but to say I would do it, I don't do it. Maybe I should, but it's something that, what types of monies do you have and what are you trying to protect and those kinds of things. And I think it probably hits each individual person in a different way.
How much is it? What did they want?
When we did it, it was like $25 for 6 months.
Oh, that's not bad.
I
That's
mean,
just,
I may be misremembering this, but we had it, then we changed companies and haven't gotten it back yet.
I would read the fine print on some of that stuff because society will go with the flow. So if there's something big and I'll use an example, the school shootings that we've unfortunately been faced with in today's world. That's a big thing in law enforcement, and there are companies out there that you've never heard of that have developed these active shooter schools, and some folks know that's a hot topic within the realm of law enforcement, so we're going to make some money too. So you have to be careful with that as well.
And I mean, the thing that it provided was basically what you would pay for, not to, stop it from happening.
Sure.
But it was just
A reimbursement.
Somebody to do all to do all the legwork and paperwork for you to like restore your credit.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of what it was.
Well, according to the gentleman that I worked the case on that I was on the fire department with, that may be a good investment because he said it was horrific for about 2 to 20.
What kind of information do you have to give those folks?
I got it from State Farm too. We had all their stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
I mean, it was just something we added on.
Yes.
That grandmother thing, that must be a real common.
It is.
My dad's gotten called twice. My dad's sharp enough that both times he asked questions. They said, "Is it grandpa's grandson?" And he hung up on him.
Right.
Because, he knew my son is his only grandson, and he really said his name. But it happened to his friend, his lady friend, who's like 80 years old and doesn't hear very well. And her grandson was actually on his honeymoon in another country. And so I don't know if they knew that or, somehow they'd seen that somewhere, but went through the whole, I'm in jail, blah, 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 needed $2,500 or whatever. She gets out, it was when that ice storm hit this past year.
Oh, wow.
She gets out in the ice to go to Walmart to Western Union and money. The lady at Walmart said, I think this is,
Yeah.
she was gonna send them $2,500.
That's a
So the
shame.
lady at Walmart saved her.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's what'll happen. A lot of times they'll say, go get a green dot money card from CVS and put this amount of money on it and send it to me right away. CVS folks have been great as far as informing the public, saying, you probably need to contact the sheriff's office or your municipality
She
before
actually
you
took
make
her
these
back a
steps.
thank you note with some money just because she saved her
Yeah,
money. She was gonna do it.
yeah, and it happens. It does. It happens a lot.
Just
We're
a
out of
fancy
time.
comment.
Yes.
What I hate is all these stores, even like Kohl's, the malls everywhere, and your phone number. I'm like, no. Oh, why not? You can, and what's your email? No, well, you can get 10% off. You can get coupons, unadvertised sales. It's like, and it's almost a harassment everywhere you go. And your phone number. They, it's like, I'm not giving you my phone number.
My wife gets embarrassed because I'll say, what do you need that information for? And they'll tell me, and I'll say, unless you're sending a Christmas card with money in it, I'm not giving it to you. And she'll be like, oh no.
That's good. And people in line in front of me, everybody's spouting up, and I'm like, and what do they do with that? Sell it to everybody else? What do they do?
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm just saying.
And a lot of times I'll say I'm not doing it, and a lot of times the cashiers go, okay, and they'll just put zeros in the line.
Yeah.
Because they know too. I mean, they're under guidelines with their department, and so yeah. Any more questions?
One, but I could ask you after if you dismiss everybody. We ordered some merchandise from a company. We bought these beds, and together they make a queen. So my husband thought that a regular sheet didn't fit, whatever. Anyway, the sheets were like faulty, they're like falling apart. We can't get them to respond to email or a phone call. I've called the Better Business Bureau there. If I make a claim to them in writing, which I still need to do, they might try to do something about it. I called the I don't know, the thing in town, whatever it's called, Chamber of Commerce, and they don't know anything. They said, oh yeah, that's a legitimate address and so on.
Yeah.
I called my credit card company because I have the merchandise, they can't do anything about it. Unfortunately, I paid my whole credit card bill the day after they took the money out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
No
Tom.
problem. Thank you.